The Cardinals are just scratching the surface in terms of how good they could potentially be this season.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? I'm your host, Dalton Pence. You're tuned in to Locked On Louisville, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about on today's show. The Cardinals football team hosting Clemson tonight. We'll give you the keys to victory against the Tigers. Men's basketball back in action tomorrow on Saturday, hosting Ohio. We'll preview that matchup. But first, we're going to talk about how this team is just scratching the surface in terms of how good they can actually be this season. It's scary to think about because I thought that they played good, not great, against Kentucky. But the truth is that the potential is through the roof. The sky is the limit for this team, and I'm going to address an argument / excuse that I'm seeing from Kentucky fans. And the only reason that I'm doing this, just so we're clear, is because it directly correlates with what I'm saying. It goes hand in hand. And you know the argument that I'm talking about. It's the argument that Team A only beat Team B because Team A played out of its mind. Team A shot the lights out. Team A couldn't play any better than they did in that specific game, and they won't for the rest of the season. Have you heard that argument? I thought so. And to be fair to BBN, it's not the majority of the fan base that is suggesting this, but a sizable amount that I've seen on social media. And to also be fair, this is not some new argument that's being made. Like, this happens a lot in sports where fan bases say, oh, the only reason your team beat mine is because your team played much better than it has all season. They won't play that good for the rest of the year. We are your team's Super Bowl. You hear that a lot, don't you? All that really is a coping mechanism. Let's call it how it is. It is a coping mechanism. And there's one thing that is wrong with what these Kentucky fans are saying. There's one thing that's wrong with this notion that Louisville played a perfect game, that they shot the lights out, and they won't play that good all season long. There's one thing wrong with that, and it's that it's completely incorrect. The numbers don't support it at all. You look at the numbers, the box score, and you're like, how do you even come to this conclusion? Well, you come to the conclusion because you associate getting beat by double digits for the majority of the game with, oh, well, this team is just playing lights out. The reality of the situation is that the Cardinals didn't really shoot all that great from the field. In fact, Kentucky shot better than Louisville across the board. From three-point land, they shot 35%. Louisville shot 32.5%. From the free throw line, they shot 75%. Louisville shot 68%. And overall from the field, Kentucky shot 47.1%. The Cardinals 44.9%. To make matters even worse for this argument, Kentucky out-rebounded Louisville by 2. And they also had 4 more paint points. They had 40 points in the paint. Louisville had 36. So what does this mean? That argument is 100%, 1,000% incorrect. It's a lazy argument. It's nowhere close to being true. Louisville shot 32%. Like this notion, oh, Louisville shot the lights out from 3. Maybe early on in the game, they got a little hot, but they shot 32.5%. The Cardinals shot 37.5% against South Carolina State. Not even the best shooting performance of the early season, and we're only 3 games in. So that argument's out the window. It's just, again, it's a coping mechanism, and it goes hand in hand with the point that I'm trying to make, and I'll get back to that here in a second. What won Louisville the game on Tuesday night In my opinion, I said it on Tuesday night, and I'll say it again, the ATO, assist to turnover ratio, Louisville 20 assists to 6 turnovers, Kentucky 14 assists to 14 turnovers. I think that is the deciding factor. Louisville was more careful with the basketball, and they moved the ball around more effectively. That's the ball game, in my opinion. Now, I don't know why it's so hard to just admit that Louisville was the better team on Tuesday. And there's this other notion that, oh, well, Kentucky just played tremendously bad. There might be some truth to that to an extent. I don't think Kentucky played their best on the court. Oh, well, Kentucky would have won had they played better. Okay, but they didn't. Isn't that sports? Isn't that the premise of sports? If you don't play good, there's a chance you won't win. How many games could you say that for? Oh, well, if insert team here played better, then that team would have beat your team. Okay, yeah, I guess that could apply for everyone if we're playing the hypothetical game. I guess it just means more. But it's hypothetical. And that's the beauty of sports, is that it's about who executes more on that given day. We have the saying all the time. Games aren't played on paper. They're played on grass. They're played on a court, etc. So, I mean, I think UK didn't play great, but also I think you have to give Louisville some credit. Talk about, well, Kentucky's defense wasn't great. I think part of that's because the Cardinals have such a mismatch in the backcourt. They have one of the best backcourts in the country, and it was put on display on Tuesday. Kentucky turned the ball over more than they should. I think part of that is Louisville's defense rotating and jumping passing lanes. Now, it's not all on Louisville. I think that third game of the season, you can't expect a team to play perfect. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. Let's circle back to the main point, is that Louisville is just scratching the surface on how good they can actually be. Two things can be true. They played good against Kentucky. They did. I don't think they played great. They played good. Pretty good. But nowhere close to their ceiling. I think there's a couple areas in which they need to improve. The first one, free throws. They were 21 of 31 from the charity stripe. 7 of those in the last, a minute in the game. Got to be better, especially in crunch time. Free throws are free. The old saying goes, free throws are free. Got to cash in on those. Thankfully, Kentucky did not take advantage of that. Secondly, thought the defense, you gave up 88 points. That's partially because of the pace of play that you're playing. You score more points, but you give up more defensive possessions because of the pace of play. There were instances in the first half and even in the second half where Kentucky was able to get open threes. They were able to mismatch or exploit some mismatches on high ball screens that got the ball around the basket with little opposition, and Kentucky's bigs were able to just put layups up, dunk the basketball with little to no shot opposition. That has to be better. I think on-ball defense was better than the first 2 games, even though you might not know it based upon the box scores, just basically on the levels of competition. I thought that the on-ball defense improved. The interior defense improved, but there's always room for improvement. And the way that the defense improves would be, in my opinion, more effectively defending the high ball screens. So that whether that is knowing how to hedge the opposing ball handler efficiently. Say, okay, if Sananda Frew is going to defend the ball handler and he's going to hedge that screen, then someone needs to rotate and defend the guy that's rolling to the basket, and then you just have to shift the defense. And that's just one specific example, but that's where the defense can improve. On the offensive end of the floor, half-court offense, when you weren't able to run as much as you were in the first half, I think that's when the Cardinals' offense stalled out a little bit, is when Kentucky slowed the game down. And you best believe that moving forward, teams that are good in the half court are going to make it a point of emphasis to slow the Cardinals down and make them be methodical and use the shot clock. So half court offense can improve. You saw some good things. Ryan Conwell, Michael Brown Jr., Isaac McNeely, Javon Hadley in the half court, Sananda Frew in the half court, Ali Khalifa as a big man facilitating at the top of the key, at the elbow. You saw some good things. Again, just because you won this game doesn't mean that you can now coast. And I'm not suggesting that that's what Louisville is going to do. I'm just making that point, right? This is the third game of the season. This is a great moral victory, or not moral victory. This is a great victory for your morale, great victory for your record, great victory for your resume, you name it, great victory across the board. But still, now you have to continue to get better because it's not just going to get easier from here on out. Let's talk about the next opponent. Ohio hasn't had a great start to the season, but they've got some solid players on this team. We'll tell you more about the Bobcats squad when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. For the Louisville Cardinals, Michael Brown Jr. delivered in a huge way on Tuesday in the win over Kentucky. He was key down the stretch, 29 points for the Cardinals star freshman. And if you watch Louisville early season, you know that this performance wasn't a fluke. Just like Michael delivered for Pat Kelsey's team, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is good through November 18th, so take advantage of it. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Louisville your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the show is free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube and TikTok. And thank you all so much for being an everydayer of the show and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network on planet Earth. Yes, in the world. It is awesome to see that. But Louisville back in action tomorrow on Saturday, hosting the Ohio Bobcats. 12 o'clock tip-off on the CW network at the KFC Center. CW network. Gosh, the CW network curse, we all know about it. Hopefully that's, of course, not a thing. I'm interested to see what the spread's going to be in this game. I haven't seen a spread come out yet because we're still a little bit a ways away from it. But according to the ESPN analytics, the matchup predictor, what was a 98.4% chance of winning this game. Ohio kind of stumbled to start the season, 1-2 overall, 0-1 on the road. They lost by 4 points in the season opener against Arkansas State. They followed that up with a home victory against Illinois State by 4, and then they got blown out on the road on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday, wasn't it? Yeah, on Tuesday, 90-60 against St. Mary's. And of course, St. Mary's, one of the better teams in I think it's the WCC, if I'm not mistaken. The WCC, of course, that team is going to compete with Gonzaga for that conference. But Ohio, predicted by many to finish 4th in the MAC preseason rankings behind Akron, Miami, are projected to finish #1 in the conference last year. Things didn't really go to plan. They had some injuries. Now, this year's squad, they're returning a key nucleus of players. The 3 that we'll talk about the most, Jacob, I think it's Jackson Pavletsky, Aiden Hadaway, and AJ Sheldon. Those are the 3 rotational guys. All 3 early season in the first 3 games. They are the only players averaging over 30 minutes per night for the Bobcats. So those 3 guys are going to play a ton on Saturday, you would think. Pavletsky, 6'2" guard, is their leading scorer, 18 points per game. They have 4 players averaging in double figures. Pavletsky and Hadaway, the 2 top returners, are also the top 2 scores. Hadaway leading the team in rebounds, 5.7 per game, 6'8" forward. He was injured for much of conference play last season. One of the reasons why the Bobcats had an abrupt and early exit in the conference tournament last season. They did bring in a couple of wings via the transfer portal. One from Toledo, Javon Simmons, who's 6'7". One from UNC Greensboro, 6'8", Jalen Breath. Simmons and Breath are the other two, averaging in double digits. So looking at this, Ohio hasn't had a great start to the season. I would imagine that the Cardinals are going to be favored in this game by a good amount. And three things that I will say about this Ohio team as it relates to the matchup with Louisville. The Cardinals will have a pretty solid size advantage in the front court. Ohio's top big man, so to speak, is sophomore Aiden Evans, 6'10", 205 pounds. He's only averaging 2 rebounds per game. He is, if you're familiar with Kentucky high school basketball, he played for E-Town High School and ended up going to Ohio. 6'10", 205 pounds, but only averaging 2 rebounds per contest. This isn't a tremendously tall Ohio team. Like, they have tall wings in the rotation, but in terms of the front court in general, not a ton of height there. So Sananda Frew, Ali Khalifa, even Javon Hadley utilizing those mismatches. Kason Pryor as well. And the Cardinals taking it to the basket. Ryan Conwell, Michael Brown Jr., you name it. I think that that's where the Cardinals, if you're wanting to get 50 paint touches a game, this is probably a good opponent to achieve that number, to reach that number, because they might have some length at the 3 and the 4, but as it relates to the big man position, the center position, not really much height there. So Louisville will have the size advantage. Ohio is also not a good three-point shooting team. 25.9% from 3. That is not good whatsoever. Now, Pavletsky is shooting 43% from 3, but not really. Like, you look at the numbers, it's because he shot 3 for 3 last game against St. Mary. He was 0 for 0 against Illinois State and 0 for 4 against Arkansas State. So this isn't a great three-point shooting team. Ohio is a team that likes to take it to the basket. They're shooting 46% from the field, 64% from the free throw line. I know that sample sizes, it's dangerous to draw too many conclusions away from the numbers right now because we're only 3 games in. But early on, this is not an Ohio team that shoots the ball particularly well. They're not the tallest team. They also don't force many turnovers. They average about 3.3 steals per game. You might be asking, well, is that good? Is that bad? Maybe, I don't know. For reference, the Cardinals average 11.3. Now, they do block more shots than Louisville. Louisville averages 2.7 blocks per contest. Actually, they don't. I take that back. I read that wrong. They average 2.3 blocks per contest, so they do not. Long story short, this is a game that the Cardinals should win pretty easily. Of course, games aren't played on paper. They're played on hardwood. So it's going to be up to the Cardinals to not overlook this game in the way that Pat Kelsey and the coaching staff prepare the teams. No, I don't think that this is going to be a worry in terms of overlooking this game. I do think that as much as we didn't see Kenai Roots and Kason Pryor last game, I think that this is where Roots bounces back and plays a good amount of minutes, and you could see him on potential double-double watch against the Bobcats. Kason Pryor, who played, 16 minutes against – did he play 16 minutes against Jackson State? Yeah, 16 minutes against Jackson State, only 2 against Kentucky. I look for him to play probably around that 15 to 18 number in this game as well. 15 to 18 minutes per game, because hey, you're trying to get him back into the groove. And I think that this is an opponent that you should be able to throw him out there while he builds that confidence back up and gets his feet under him and ready to go as we get closer and closer to December. So I think Louisville win this game. In terms of a score prediction, let's give a score prediction. Ohio, in the past 3 games, they gave up 89 points, 68 points, and 90 points. I think Louisville gets back to 90 points. I'm going to go 94-61 is going to be my score prediction. I think that the Cardinals are going to score 90 once again. And defensively, first half, I would imagine first half defense will be good, but when Louisville builds up that lead, I would expect that's when things might get just a tad bit sloppy on that end of the floor, and you give up some points. No worries. You move to 4-0 and get ready for Cincinnati. Switch over to the football side of things. There is a football game tonight. The Cardinals will take on Clemson, looking to bounce back from that California loss. How did they get back in the win column? We'll identify the keys to victory when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned to the Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a larger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Don't forget to leave a comment in the YouTube section below. Hit that subscribe button. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow, and they are much appreciated. It's been a good week for the show. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're an everydayer of the show who makes Locked On Louisville part of your daily routine, we appreciate you so much. Let's talk a little football. The Louisville Cardinals looking to get back in the win column after suffering a disastrous defeat to California last Saturday. They turn the page. They take on Clemson. Clemson is 4-5. They're 3-4 in ACC play. They're not a great team. They stumbled out of the gate. They have played better as of the past month, but you won't see that in the box score. You just see it in their performance. But still, that didn't stop the Cardinals from opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Vegas thinks that with the way Louisville's playing, this could be a much closer game than maybe the records might suggest. Louisville 7-2, 4-2 in conference play. Louisville has a 54.9% chance, according to the matchup predictor on ESPN's analytics. So, what do the Cardinals need to do to be victorious in this game against the Tigers? They need to score more points than Clemson. Hashtag analysis. No, in all reality, I think that there's 3 things that I'm looking for specifically. They've got to get the passing game going. The passing game it looked good at the end of the Pittsburgh game. It looked good against Virginia for the most part, and then looked solid against Miami. Boston College, not really. Virginia Tech, for the most part, no. And definitely not against California. It's been trending in the wrong direction. Numbers-wise, Louisville's offense is 50th in the country in passing yards. It's not terrible, but definitely not scratching the surface in terms of what it could be. Clemson's passing defense is 109th in the country. It's not good. They give up 245.3 passing yards per game. Louisville has to take advantage of that and get the passing game going. That starts with protecting Miller Moss, but it's also on Miller Moss to make the right reads, make accurate throws, and don't put the ball in unnecessary windows and put the ball into harm's way and turn the football over. In other words, don't make mistakes that veteran quarterbacks shouldn't make. Now, again, you can't point all the blame at Moss, but just specifically looking at the past couple of weeks, quarterback plays held this team back. I think that it's going to be up to Jeff Brom and company to craft a game plan around building Miller's confidence up in this game. I know that the past couple of weeks, it looks like he's lost that confidence. He's double guessing himself, and that's what's making things in turn not good. Quick passes, but you would imagine that Dabo Swinney and company are going to zone in on that. They're going to dare Miller Moss to throw the football down the field because he's shown this season when he does, most of the time it's been turnovers. I would love if we talk about this game on Monday and we are singing the praises for Miller, that he is a good game and he shuts everyone up. I hope that that's the case because I don't want to see Miller do bad because that means Louisville's offense isn't doing great. I want to see Miller ball out. I want to see him do great. I want to see him lead Louisville to a victory on Friday night. That's best case scenario. I find no joy in having these conversations about quarterback play. Regardless, the passing game needs to get going. The second thing is I think that Louisville needs to force turnovers. The Cardinals haven't forced a turnover in the past two games. Virginia Tech was a team that turned the ball over a good amount. They didn't do so against the Cardinals. California did a good job of taking care of the football. Now, Louisville has turned the ball over once in the past two games, and they've lost the turnover battle both games. I think that for this Cardinals defense, you're going up against a Clemson offense that has the potential to score a ton of points, although the numbers might not suggest that they're 70th in scoring offense, they're 112th in rushing, but they're 15th in passing. And that's been the Cardinals' Achilles heel. What did California not do well coming into the game? They didn't run the ball well, but they passed the ball really well. That was Louisville's Achilles heel. They got 3 sacks, but outside of that, not much pressure on the quarterback, and JKS dissected the defense. Cade Klubnik, who the Cardinals had every answer for last season, you best believe he's going to be looking to get his revenge tonight. You best believe it, because that's what's going to be the game plan for Clemson. Throw the ball downfield. They have multiple really, really good wide receivers. Antonio Williams, TJ Moore. Cade Klubnik is going to look to throw the ball down the field. If you give him time to throw, he's going to find his guys. You have to force him to speed up that internal clock and make decisions just a split second sooner and have him make bad throws and turn the ball over. Or you get to the quarterback and you force fumbles. Clemson isn't a team that really runs the ball all that well. Adam Randall, 116 carries for 570 yards and 6 touchdowns. He is the go-to back, 6'2", 230 pounds. The rushing attack is not really what worries me because Louisville's rushing defense is pretty solid. It's the fact that Clemson throws the ball all over the field, and that's what the Cardinals struggled to defend. So Ron English will have his hands full with the Clemson offense on Friday night. I think the third thing is not from like a metric standpoint. It's win the first half. Win the first half. Louisville, I mean, let's look at all season long against, non-EKU Bowling Green teams. JMU, they lost the first half. Pittsburgh, they were trailing in the first half. Virginia, they were tied. Miami, they had a lead. They were leading by 4. Boston College, they were leading by 11, but it wasn't pretty. They were losing in the first half against Virginia Tech and Clemson. This is a second half team, and to get to 7-2, they've had to be a second half team. Now, there is something to be said about a team making adjustments and playing their best ball in the fourth quarter. But imagine how good this team could be if they started out strong. Like this team, for whatever reason, even if they have a good first possession on offense and defense and take the lead, they haven't been able to keep it. And if it's the other way around to where they don't really start out good, they end up like roaring back in this game. So what I want to see is this team do something that they just don't do much this season. That's have a good first half. If you win the first half and then you go into the second half and make those adjustments and your defense plays better and your offense might be able to move the ball a little bit more, hey, then it's going to be much less stressful. That's a better key for success, because the truth of the matter is that the Cardinals have been putting themselves in bad situations every week that thankfully they've been able to overcome. They weren't able to do that on Saturday against California. They weren't able to do that against Virginia. Louisville was more talented than both of those teams, and they lost both of those games, partially because of both of the respective first halves. So keys to victory, in my opinion: get the passing game going, force turnovers, win that turnover battle, and win the first half. Play a complete first half. Play a complete game for the first time this season. That's what I'd like to see. That's going to wrap up this Friday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day. Get out to Cardinals Stadium if you can. Go Cards.